All right, welcome back to We Scale Creators podcast number 6, data-based decisions. And this podcast will add millions upon millions of dollars to your business. Everybody knows you need data, but how do you find it? What do you do with it? And how can you create actual AI systems to, leverage that data and improve your performance marketing as a whole? That's what we're going to be diving into on today's episode.
We've learned this the hard way. I mean, we live in 2026. There's no shortage of data out there, but being able to decipher it, being able to utilize it, and as we're going to discuss in this episode, being able to turn that data into a proven system across your offer or offers is really where the massive unlock happens. So this is huge for us. I'm excited to dive into it today.
Yeah. So I guess we kick it off before you have data, right? And I want to talk to you, about really how we're leveraging data right now to add millions of dollars to our offers. But in the beginning, you don't have much data, right? So you're running ads with Guesswork, you're building funnels with Guesswork, especially when you go launch a brand new offer, right? And what you want to do at that point is you have a couple options. You're taking data from other offers that you have, you're analyzing patterns, you're seeing what was working, like general principles, right? Like leading with the outcome in the first 3 words of your ad for another offer. The top performers all lead with the outcome, little things like that, focusing on removal of limitations, incorporating social proof, credibility. So you want to look at your other offers that you're running if you have them. And if you don't, you just start looking at other offers in the same market that you're in, which you should be doing regardless, and reverse engineering them, right? So pulling up meta ads library, this is kind of the basic stuff, but this is the foundation heading into what happens when you do have the data. But, in the beginning, you want to reverse engineer competitors, pull up the meta ad library, really looking for the ads that they have been running obviously the longest, right? The longer they've been running the ads, the more profitable they are. You want to categorize them, what hooks are working, what level of awareness is working, and kind of use that as your, starting hypothesis, right? What is working for other competitors in the market?
And one of the biggest things that we do, especially in the beginning with new offers or offers that just don't have much, if any, data at all, is we run like a 60-40 or 70-30 principle around testing. Because especially when you don't have any data, there might be some stuff that your competitors aren't doing that could work. And you don't want to put all of your eggs into one basket or the other of, I'm just going to look at nothing and just go off gut feel and creative ideation alone. But at the same time, if you only are running with stuff that's working for competitors, you might end up being too similar to them. You won't create enough contrast. It won't resonate with that brand or that offer's specific audience. So especially in the beginning, and as you'll see in the life cycle that we're going to talk about here, that starts to change over time. But in the beginning, do a mix of both. You're just going to get more unique data faster, and that's going to inform the decisions that you're making in month 2, month 3, month 6 of running your offer.
Yeah. And the fastest way to get data, obviously, is to test more. Run as many experiments as you possibly can. When we launch a new offer, we have ads in every single bucket of, level of awareness and, pain points and contrast hooks and social proof hooks and direct kind of outcome-based hooks. You want to run as many experiments as you possibly can when launching a new offer, because once you apply it, you get data back, right? And you're looking for key principles. That's the biggest thing when it comes to data, right? You're looking for principles and patterns. What patterns are consistently popping up in winning ads? Again, whether that's a level of awareness thing, whether that's a hook or a specific messaging or, even a format, right? If you're running different image ads, what kind of format is working well? What kind of video ad editing styles are working well? So you want to go out there and you want to run really as many experiments as you possibly can.
I mean, you and I think, literally had a saying in the beginning of his company that whoever can run the most experiments wins. It's like we got to run experiments on everything different, and especially early on when you don't have that track record of this angle is resonating more than this angle, or this, caption style in a video is resonating more than this caption style in a video. You might as well try everything, because that's the point where you can start to launch a ton of experiments, especially with the right amount of ad spend. You can get that data back so much faster and so much more efficiently than if you were just testing, let's say, 2 experiments a week on a low budget. If you're testing 2 a day on a bigger budget, that data is going to come back to you so much faster than as we get into what we do with that data for our offers and our partners at We Scale Creators. It just allows you to get to that point a lot sooner. And that's ultimately going to make your offer so much more money.
Yeah. And the biggest thing to note also when running experiments is you still want to make sure you have congruency right to your landing page. Like every single ad needs to have direct congruency to the page they land on after they click the ad. So if you're leading with a problem state hook on an ad, you want to make sure you have some level of congruency with that to your lander. Very, very easy to do with AI, right? When you're writing all the ads, you put in your landing page copy. You ensure that all of the ads that it writes are perfectly congruent to the language on the landing page. We've had episodes where we've talked about this, where we've literally more than doubled our conversion rate by just ensuring, the ads that we have are perfectly congruent with the copy on the landing page. It doesn't matter what kind of funnel you're running, whether it's a quiz funnel, challenge funnel, low ticket funnel, VSL funnel, doesn't matter. You got to make sure you have congruency checks between ad and landing page literally at all times, right? And once you start running these ads and you start gathering this data, really it's going to take about, let's say 30, 60, 90 days. I would say about 90 days is once we get a good, foothold on really what's working. Like that's when the real data really presents itself. And that's when we're able to really, really start aggressively scaling our offers.
How do you think we define what's working? Like, are we looking at are we just looking at one metric? Are we looking at a ton of things? Are we looking at it consistently? Like, how would you explain that we define like this is working? What is that definition?
It's really two things. It's amount spent on an individual ad and it's the CPA, right? So when we look at data and we try to find out what's working the best, I mean, Facebook does the heavy lifting for you, right? Especially with Andromeda, you go in, you put 10, 15 image ads. It's going to spend it's going to prioritize one or two of those ads to get the majority of the budget, right? And once those are fatiguing, you turn those off or you throw them in scaling campaigns, and then Andromeda will start optimizing for the next winning ad in that ad set, right? But what we're really looking for when we're looking at data is we filter by total amount spent on an ad level, on an individual ad level, and then we look at the CPA and ensure, hey, what's the KPI, or is this hitting our KPIs? Is this way lower than our KPIs? And you'll start to notice that certain hooks and certain formats will have far lower CPAs than others. Some of them might still scale very aggressively, maintain your KPIs, but other ones are going to have much, much lower CPAs. That's like the easiest way to tell. Spend CPA.
Yep, and this is even why it's true when you're, like you said earlier, when you're running those experiments, like there has to be congruency, because if you're just running a bullshit test on a creative or a concept that is maybe cool or fun, but it doesn't connect with what's actually going to be on the landing page, then you might as well save yourself the time and you might as well save yourself the money and not even run that type of test, because it's very, very likely, almost certain that is not going to resonate and ultimately be a winner. Whereas once you have that level of connection, that level of congruency, you can start to mold the creative or the creative concepts in slightly different ways to then ultimately figure out what color scheme, what format, what editing style, what is actually going to resonate best with your market for your offer, even if they're all under the problem state or solution awareness umbrella, right?
Well, one thing you just touched on too is like color schemes really do matter. We've ran ads. This happened recently, right? Where we ran 2 image ads, the exact same ad. It was a carousel ad for one of our partners. One of them was blue. One of them was white. The white one had like $600 in spend, had 0 sales. The blue one was significantly under the KPI that we're shooting for, right? So color schemes do matter. And they also matter, congruency between the lander color and the ad may work as well, right? Because our funnel actually is blue, right? And then we're testing a blue ad and the blue ad is crushing it and the white ad's not. So things like that matter. CTA copy matters a lot. When I say ensure everything is congruent to your landing page, that most definitely includes the CTA as well, right? So you want to have either outcome-based CTAs or direct CTAs that are similar to the CTAs that you have on your landing page. Every single little thing like that, every single touch point really, really matters, right? So once you start running ads for about 3 months on a new offer, that's when the real fun starts. You start getting the real data. You start figuring out what hooks work, what hooks don't. And once you have this data, you can start optimizing every single new ad around it, which we'll dive into in a second, because this is where you will literally supercharge your marketing and increase your creative win rate very, very significantly, right? You're going to start understanding what your audience responds to. And one of the ways we do this, simple tool, we use Motion. We'll dive in. We'll look at our top 25 performing creators over the last 90 days, right? So we're looking at everything. We're looking at the body copy. We're looking at the Facebook ad headline. We're looking at the video scripts. We're looking at the formats. We've been running one offer for probably 9 months now with, a few $1 million spent on it. And we dive into the data and we're like, okay, well, we've been running all these different image ad formats, and really only 3 to 4 formats work. And we're out here pumping out 20, 30 new formats a month. And in reality, looking back at 9 months of data, it's like, well, no, the only ones that work are this, this, and this. And it's very, very clear and obvious what we need to be optimizing toward, right? But and this is pretty basic stuff, but a lot of agencies and marketers really don't live in the data and reverse engineer it to find out what's working, and their creative win rates are going to be, significantly lower.
I was just going to say I feel like this is it's something that everyone's aware of, but they're not actually acting on it. Like, everyone knows you should look at the data and then optimize. But the difference between doing that and not doing that is when we started that, our win rate, like, everyone's like, oh, you only get 20, 30, 40% of your ads to actually hit. Well, that's true if you're literally just spraying and praying and trying to throw shit up there, and maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. And maybe you're running a headline variation on there that was proven, but that's about it. That's the spot you're going to find yourself in. But once you start to take that data, figure out, and as we'll dive into, like, what are those key principles for this offer, and then you apply them to all of the new ads that you create moving forward while still testing a number of different things, that's where the win rate skyrockets by 2, 3, 4 X what it could have been had you not been doing that. We found that out, ourselves when we really started diving into this a lot more. I mean, the results across all of our offers just shot through the roof once we started taking all of this into account. And we were aware of it for a long time, but it was just, how are we actually taking that data and implementing it is really one of the biggest unlocks we've had in the last 12 months.
Yeah. And like I said, really what you're looking for is CPA, right? That's the golden metric. It's like, we've ran ads that have much cheaper CPCs, much better CTRs. Let's say you go with a curiosity-based hook on your ads, and you're seeing it get, 50% lower CPCs, and you're like, wow, this is a slam dunk. But in reality, maybe you didn't have buyer intent on that ad, or maybe you didn't have landing page congruency. Maybe the ad is building curiosity, but it's not building that buyer intent or giving them enough education before they land on the landing page. So there's so many variables that don't matter. Whereas the only variable that really truly matters at the end of the day is what your cost per acquisition is. And we have ads right now that have, double the CPCs of other ads, but the CPA is lower because it does a better job of, being congruent with the lander and building that kind of buyer intent. So
yeah,
use Motion, dive in, reverse engineer everything, look at all of your data. Again, you could do this for competitors as well. If you don't have any existing data, it's very, very important that you reverse engineer what is working, right? And then what do you actually do with that information? What do you do with that data? And this is where the real value comes in. And, a lot of people may do this, they may not do this. And if they are doing it, they're not doing it at the level that we're about to talk about, because this will truly unlock a lot of profit for your offers if you execute this properly, which is really just building out AI systems based on the winning data.
Yeah, and it's what data are you capturing? Well, you're capturing all the metrics from ads, right? We just discussed that some of them are vanity, some of them are bullshit, and there's a few that are really, really important. But when it comes to turning that into an AI system, it's like, well, how do you do that? And it ultimately depends on what are you tracking and what are you trying to optimize for? So, like, we talk about awareness levels in basically every single podcast because it is truly that damn important to us. So, like, for us, one of the things that we really focus on when it comes to testing, and then also when we start scaling, is what awareness levels are we testing? How are those awareness levels being reacted to in the market, really just in terms of CPC? And that might vary based on the campaign. It might vary based on the time of year. But overall, on a long enough time horizon, trends start to emerge themselves. And then when we go and we start to plug all this into AI and we create hundreds and hundreds of new ads per month for our offers, they're all in line with just picking on awareness level, the awareness level that's proven to work at scale on cold traffic in that market. Now, everything falls under that umbrella. And again, we can still ideate based off that awareness level. There's so many different angles within that awareness level that we can tackle. But now we have the data and we're putting that data to work in our marketing and in our advertising efforts. And that's really where, with the power of AI, you're able to massively accelerate how fast you're able to put that data to work and how much volume you can pump out across your offers. And it's very targeted. It's targeted volume.
Yeah, I mean, we do mention awareness levels in every episode, but it's really as simple as meeting the market where they're at, right? That's the core principle on what you're doing when you're thinking about awareness levels. You need to meet the market where they're at. If you don't meet somebody where they're at, they're not going to resonate with you, right? It's almost like energetic congruency. Like they see it, they're in that exact level of awareness. It speaks directly to them. And you want to make sure that, again, when you do that, you also have congruency with the lander and the ad. But it's not that difficult. And this is going to really, really amplify your market when you know how to meet the market where it's at, right? If you have an offer and it's really focusing on pain, you got to have ads that lead with problem state, right? People don't buy solutions unless they're in a problem state. So you want to make sure you really dig into that pain. You kind of twist the knife and, dig into it, right? Whereas a solution aware offer, let's say you're in a investing market and they're already aware of investing or they're aware of crypto. And at that point, you're not really targeting the pain of not knowing where to invest, or, it's not like a more beginner thing, right? You're targeting people that are already in crypto, that want to make more money. They're already familiar with all of the verbiage in that, and you're meeting them exactly where they're at, maybe with a unique mechanism or some level of differentiation. And then you have kind of the higher levels, which are more product aware and most aware, that you can use better for retargeting. And people that are already familiar with offers, maybe they're not familiar with your offer, but they're familiar with other offers in the market. And at that point, you create differentiation on why your product is better so they can compare you to them. And they're like, oh, well, these guys are, their offer's way better, right? So anyways, just want to clarify that. But diving into the AI systems, so what do you actually do with the data, right? And once you have the data, it's like everything becomes much easier. Your team can automatically create winning ads, repeatedly. You're able to get your output out way, way faster with way better results. And how do you actually decipher that data and build prediction engines to launch new ads is what we're going to be diving into now.
Yeah, I mean, when we discovered this, it was like the gates opened, literally heaven's gates opened for us.
It was, yeah.
Oh, holy shit. We've been spending millions and millions of dollars on all these offers on ads, and it's like the patterns themselves are really not that insane. You kind of touched on it earlier. Like a lot of it comes back to like very foundational marketing principles, but it takes spending the time and spending the money to capture it and then actually sitting down and distilling it and going, okay, what are the winning ads made out of? What are the winning copy angles made out of? And ultimately what you get into is a very, very small select group of winning principles that are very clear winners. I know for us on one of our offers, it was like 19 of the top 20 ads all had like the same two key things in it. It was like certain face and certain copy angle for the headline.
Yep.
Was in 98% of
literally 98%.
It's like, holy
98%. Maybe it's like, yeah, if you have 98%, you got to do more of what's working, right? It's so freaking obvious. And one thing I just want to interrupt real quick is the patterns don't translate all the time to other offers in other markets, right? 100%. Even if it's in the same freaking market and it's a similar offer, for whatever reason, it's not always going to translate. So you obviously want to make sure you're getting data unique toward, and you can apply the same principles and whatnot in tests, but it's not always going to translate. Data can differ based on a variety of factors in which I don't even know all of them, right? There are certain hypotheses that I'll have, and I'll be like, dude, this offer is in the same market as this. This principle has to apply to this offer, and it just doesn't. And it's strange, and sometimes I don't even have the answer to why, but that's what the data shows.
Yeah, there's all stuff that you just got to track. And it's like, for us, the goal with the AI system, and I'll let you speak more on this, but it's like with our the data we're collecting via advertising, what are we trying to accomplish with the AI system? Like, what's even the goal of doing it, apart from just doing more ads? Well, at least from my perspective, it's like, we want our creative win rate to be higher. If our creative win rate is higher, we are going to have more winning ads. We have more winning ads, we're making more money on the funnel, at least on the front end. We're probably getting better quality customers in as well. So like the main goal for us when we started developing these AI systems around all the data we're collecting from advertising is how do we increase our creative win rate, because doing that unlocks the key to all the profitability that comes when you're spending multiple six figures per month on each of our offers.
Yeah, I mean, you're making more because your ads are working more, and you're saving money because less ads are not working, right? Pretty simple stuff. So really what we do is we reverse engineer all the data. We look at tools, we look at Hyros, we look at Motion. Motion is great. Give some sauce away. With Motion, you can actually go into their AI now and chat with it and say, hey, pull up the top 25 winning video ads, pull up the top 25 transcripts of them, pull up the top 25 image ads, pull up the 25 winning headlines. So you want every single data point, right? They're all connected, and you want to get as much data as you possibly can. So again, you're picking from video to images, you're downloading all the images. And then what you want to do at that point is you want to throw them into Claude, right? So you want to get all that data. You want to throw it into an AI. We use Claude. I would highly recommend you use Claude as well. And then you want to have it actually analyze all of the patterns between every single data point that you just fed it. So now what you're doing is you're learning, first of all, what formats are working, right? On the image side, whether you're running carousel ads, tweet ads, founder forward ads with their face in a hook, what formats are working? Then it's like, what hooks are working? Okay. What headlines on the ads are working? And you're going to realize very, very quickly that out of the 100 headlines you've tested, there's probably 8 that are actually crushing it. And you're going to see a consistent pattern between all 8. The data that you're going to receive back is going to be pretty damn simple most of the time when you're running offers at scale on really what the market is resonating with, right? So we just did this for one of our offers, and we're like, okay, well, leading with the outcome in the first 3 to 4 words is in like 90 something % of all top performing ads, right? And then it's like, well, what kind of hooks are working? Well, contrast-based hook for this particular offer is blowing out every other, hook in the water. So that's what you want to do. And then at that point, you want to create a creative playbook with all of this data collectively, right? So you're building out, you're feeding it everything. Again, headlines, images, videos, transcripts, everything. And then you're building out a creative playbook, and you're having it analyze everything. And you're seeing what are the top repeating words in every single one of your ads. You're going to see like 5 to 10 words that are in like every single ad, right? And you're starting to learn like, oh, okay, well, we have to have every single, these are must use phrases, right? And at that point, you have the creative playbook, and then you can go on and actually build out AI systems that can do all of this automatically for you based on the data. So I'll elaborate a little bit more. So now you have the creative playbook, you have the data, you have the patterns, and what you want to do at this point is create headline writers. You want to create body copy writers, and you want it all trained and based on the winning data. There are caveats, which I'll dive into, but anything you want to add in on this?
Yeah, I mean, when we started doing this, like when we would show team members all the stuff that we found and getting them true, because they were aware of what was winning and what was not winning, but they weren't really aware of why, at least on a deep level. And once we were able to not only capture all this, but sit down with our team, our designers, our video people, our writers, everyone who's involved in the creative process across all of our offers, getting them to understand these things, it was like a paradigm shift for them, because they went from just knowing like, okay, this ad, might have worked, but maybe it was the headline, maybe it was the colors, maybe it was the angle. Like they don't really know. And now we have concrete, crystal clear data in front of them as to why these winning ads were actually winning ads. And then when they're going and they're responsible for new campaigns or just general refreshes, or as we touched on in the last video, going out and flying and shooting with clients in person for creative refresh shoots. Now, when all these things are taking place, they have these foundational principles and angles all backed on real data for that offer that they can take and apply to the work that they're doing, which means that they're able to create not only better ads, but ads that have a much better chance of actually working, which is what they want, right? They don't want to create ads that don't resonate or don't work. Like that's not fun for anyone. And now they have the tools and the capability to go in and still put their creative spin on things, but making sure that it aligns with what the AI found are the most important principles for that offer is absolutely massive. It's
huge point, man.
Important things that our team has discovered in the last couple months.
Yeah, huge point. Like having your entire team understand the why. Like, yeah, they're going to have the AI systems, but they need to understand the why as well. And that will influence their thinking when going about creating new copy, new images, new editing styles, et cetera, et cetera. They need to understand the why. And then you can even go one step further. And what we do is we have AI systems now that actually will chief their work, right? So let's say we create 5 image ads. We can throw that into our image chief. That image chief is going to analyze every single word on the image ad. It's going to analyze the entire design of it. It's going to compare it to winning ads that we have. It's going to apply it, apply principles and patterns, and it's going to give them a full review. So now at this point, we have our designer creating these ads. He's throwing them in the AI. The AI is auto reviewing it. Here's what you did right. Here's what you did wrong. Here's what you need to change, and here's what you need to change it to. So it's giving him every single piece of information he needs to now go and optimize that ad to be the highest converting ad it can possibly be based on all of the winning data that we now have.
And guys, this is the real sauce right here. Like, this is the real shit that
people won't understand how valuable this is. They want to, I mean, some people will, but a lot of people won't do, they won't execute on this information, and this really is the real sauce.
No, I mean, even one of these things, like even just to focus on headlines alone, if you're an offer owner or you're running an offer and you actually truly sit down and figure out and analyze with AI what those headlines are and why they're working, and then apply that to future stuff that you do, it's guaranteed that you'll make more money. Like, it's truly a guaranteed fact of law that that'll happen. And what's crazier is a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, this stuff was still possible, but it was a lot more time consuming. It took a lot longer to actually track all that down. You had to have either pretty shitty AI models analyze it or people analyze it and present these playbooks. Now, with how good AI models are and the fact that the data you're able to capture is essentially infinite. I mean, you can get data at this point on literally any metric you could possibly want to track with the right software. The ease and the barrier to entry to be able to distill this down and actually utilize it has never been lower. Like, at this point, there's truly no excuse for not doing this other than pure laziness, because it's not that difficult to track down. It's truly not, especially nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll share some more real sauce here, too, on how you can really elevate these systems. Actually, before I do that, I will also say another thing that you should be doing is once you have all of this data, you have all these clear patterns, you want to also go and update your actual funnel, right? So, like, let's say we have all these patterns on these ads that are working, certain verbiage, certain hooks, whatever. We now want to go to our actual landing page and we want to update all of that language to what is working on the ad side, right? So we already have congruency between the ad and lander initially, but we're testing, we're getting more data, we're figuring out maybe we need to word this messaging this way. It's still the same concept, but we want to reword it a little bit differently, right? And then once you update the sales page, now you're going to have even better congruency with your ads and all future ads that you're going to run based on your winning data, and your conversion rates are just going to go up, right? So you don't want to just apply this to ads. You want to apply this through the entire funnel, right? Throughout your entire marketing. Maybe that even includes the back end, right? Maybe it includes the high ticket ascension. It's like, okay, what language are they resonating with on the front end? How can we tie that back into our back end offer? You want to be thinking through the entire funnel. Now, here's the other thing, and this is really, really important. You hear all this data talk and you're like, okay, well, I get the winning data. I start doing new ads based on the winning data. But also you got to keep in mind winning data has a shelf life, right? So that's why ads fatigue. Ads are always going to fatigue over time. The hook that crushed, let's say 3 months ago, is not going to work as well now. And the way that you got to be thinking about this is that markets are like living organisms, right? The market moves and so does the audience. The audience evolves as well. And you don't want to build systems that are completely structured in a specific way, that are only looking at winning data and not allowing room for creativity or testing. Now, there's a ratio you could do, maybe 70-30. You look at 70% and you launch ads based on the winning data, and you have 30% room for creativity. You got to test this based on your offer and your market. But it's very, very important that you don't look at this completely black and white, which is why I want to really stress the point that you're ultimately looking at the principles, not the exact like step-by-step, like copy and paste the verbiage. You're looking at the principle, which is what you just explained earlier, Nate, is like, why did this work? Once you understand the why, you can apply the same principle to different spins of that.
Yep, it's there's so many examples in especially marketing. Like you think of, the 2017 to 2020 era of like everyone who could just post up in a video with a Lambo was going to make infinite money on ads. And it's like, was that about the Lambo or is it about the premise? Well, the premise, especially if you're doing biz op with that angle, was people want the lifestyle. It was a lifestyle concept within that market that was working well. You could do a yacht, you could do a plane, you could do a Lambo. It wasn't about the Lambo. That's looking way too detail oriented at it. It's about this is what the market wanted to feel. This is what they would resonate with at that time. And that stuff, like you just explained, does change over time. People get beat to death with, podcast style ads worked super well, during COVID and right after COVID. And then everyone started running them and the market wasn't as receptive to them anymore. But the underlying angle and principle of the podcast, which is explaining information from an authoritarian standpoint that resonates with the audience in a clear way, that still stayed in a lot of markets where podcast ads worked. So those who were on the cutting edge of understanding that data knew that, okay, eventually these podcast angle ads are going to have a shelf life, but how is the underlying foundation of why that ad worked? How is that going to shift? Is it going to shift a little bit? Is it going to completely flip on its head? That's the stuff that they started getting out ahead of and testing. We do that with all of our offers at this point, and that's how we're able to stay ahead of what's working in the market and not be running stuff that worked in summer of 2025 still in February. Things shift, things change, and when you're looking at this data, it's very important that you are staying up to date on that and almost seeing ahead of where the market is going to go. Otherwise, you're simply going to fall behind.
Yeah. It's like if I spent $40K on an ad 6 months ago at a $75 CPA compared to last week, we spent $8K on an ad at a $70 or $80 CPA. It's like, obviously the more recent ad is going to be more valuable data at this point, right? So you always want to be getting data in the present moment, what is working, and then you want to continue training that AI, not only on old winning data, but on new data, right? So data trains the AI helps you generate the creatives, you start generating new ideas with the AI that maybe you haven't tested before, and better data continues training a better AI model, right? Every single month, you want your models to get smarter and smarter and smarter based on all of the recent data and all the recent split testing that you're doing.
Yep. Absolutely necessary. And especially anyone who's in AI knows the AI is only as good as the data that you give it. So if you spend all this time and a bunch of energy and you collect all the data and you put it in and you're like, this is great, and you actually follow everything that we've explained in this podcast, by between now and Q2, middle of Q2, end of Q2, you're probably going to need to do another whole refresh. You're not really creating the whole thing from scratch, but you are having to go and reanalyze how all that data has changed over the course of this time. And it's very important that, like you said, you feed that back to the AI and continue to make it smarter, or even go a step further and have the AI in real time as you're running ads on a daily basis, consume all of the ads, pull all of the metrics daily and update itself. But either way, you got to be updating the knowledge base in which you are utilizing AI to create anything in marketing or anything in advertising. Otherwise, it's only going to be as good as the data that you're giving it or that you're allowing it to capture. It's very important. It's very boring, but you have to do it. You have to.
It's exciting for me, for marketers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is how your creative win rate goes up every single month, right? This is the real moat. Once you have a data set that is, worth millions of dollars, based on millions of dollars in data, you're going to stomp out all your competition. This is how you get ahead of all competition, increase your creative win rate. And this is also what we do in our weekly pod war rooms, right? Which we've had an entire episode about. It's like we jump on with our entire team and we look at the data. We look at all the common patterns. We look at what's working right now. We look at what's not working right now. We look at how is the market evolving. And here's another interesting thing too. It's like, as your data set grows, your creative briefs actually, may even get shorter. It's like in month one, when you launch a new offer, you have 100 different hooks and different split tests that you're running. And then once you have 3 to 6 months of data, it's like, well, at this point, we know only these things work. So our creative briefs will actually get shorter, but they'll be much, much more effective.
Yeah, it's just and the whole theme, if we had to distill this podcast down into like a couple important things, it's making sure that you know the data and why, and then distilling that down into your team and into your ads over time. And once you're, when you first launch an offer, like you said, you might have no idea what's going to resonate, what's not going to resonate. But when you're, in our position, you're working with some clients for 12 plus months running the same couple offers and still wanting to continue growing them. It's really just about focusing on the key things that matter and ensuring that in some variation, those are hitting in every single piece of ad copy, ad creative, new videos, etc., that you're putting out. And we could probably even go deeper into some of the nuances, which we briefly touched on with like colors, but even like caption styles in videos, locations for videos where they're being shot, font that's being used, the facial expressions of the people who are actually in the ads. Like there's so many layers that you can start to unpack with this, and it all ultimately will bleed up into a couple key things, and then those key things is what has to go into every holiday campaign, every refresh, every client shoot. And you'll start to see that once you do this, not only are your ads getting a lot more effective, but the win rate itself and how much money you're making is just going up right along with it.
And in addition to that, it's how much faster your team can move now. It's like a lot of time is spent on generating ideas and ways to think about different hooks to test. When you have AI systems that are trained on your data and constantly improving based on your data, your output and speed of implementation absolutely skyrockets. When our design team needs to go and come up with new, creative concepts beforehand, that would take so much brain power. You got to sit there and think, what creative concept am I creating next? Or sitting there talking to AI and it's giving you ideas and you don't even know if they're good ideas or bad ideas. But once you have this data, you move so much faster, because even when you do come up with the creative concepts, it's like most of it is already going to be good to go. We have, we have the creative concept creator. Then we have the copy generator for it. Then once it's designed and it's all done, we have a image chief that is now going to review it, and it's going to tell you what's good and bad about it. Everything is accelerated, all based on your data, and it just allows you to move so much faster, get better results, and improve your company as a whole, right? And there's also a lot of power in negative data. So it's like we're talking about winning data, but there's a lot of freaking power in negative data as well. And Nate, you touched on the why. It's like, well, that why principle also applies to ads that have not performed. All of the ads that are not performed, you analyze them and you go, well, why did these not work? And you start learning certain messaging that your audience just doesn't resonate with. These could be very, very small things. They could be very slight tweaks in how you word something that may not resonate with that audience's level of awareness. Or maybe your audience is like 35-year-old corporate professionals and you're using verbiage that audience would scoff at, right? They read it and they're like, man, this is bullshit. Like, this is not how, that audience talks. And once you start looking at that negative data and absorbing that, you know what not to say. And what not to say is just as important as what to say.
Especially early on when you capture this negative data. And there's been times where you or I or other members of our team were like, this ad looks freaking great. Like, this thing's going to crush. And then we think it's going to be good. And then we give the data back and we're like, well, that didn't work. And then usually, whether it's AI or not, but we can probably look at that ad and be like, oh, I totally see it now. Like, this missed the mark completely. Or this audience is maybe very reactive to visuals of the product or visuals of the outcome or whatever. And this one had a great hook, but there was no visuals in it. And that's why the CPA is twice as high as it should be, because they're not able to see what they're ultimately trying to buy. So this negative data, even though it sucks to not have ads win, it's very important you capture it. And it's very important that you understand it and, go back to the why this didn't work as early on as you possibly can, because the sooner you understand it, then you can start to change how you think and how you actually create new concepts on an ongoing basis. And you couple that with the winning data that you're getting, it's almost like you have a big net, and that net just gets more narrow and more narrow and more narrow. And eventually it's like a hallway where you're just running full steam ahead. You know exactly where you're going and where you're not going. And it's just a straight line towards success. That's like the best way to put it. It's a super wide net and just closes in. And once you're, closed in, but you still got room to run, then you just take off.
Yeah, you've eliminated all the friction and constraints that you know don't work. And that's why it's so valuable to create like a creative playbook for your team based on all this data. So everything from images to videos to what not to say to what to say to the excuse me, the best credibility points. That creative playbook is going to help your team out tremendously. And it's also going to help train your models very, very effectively. And it's like once you have all this data in your models, the level of output you're going to get from your models is going to be so much greater. So this is truly, truly one of the most valuable things you could do when running any offer on cold traffic. And also what happens at a certain point, if you're running multiple offers like us, at this point, we have tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars in results. We have key patterns across, various markets, right? So we have our own internal kind of playbook now that we know based on each market or even collectively as a whole, what is working, what principles work at the highest level. And this is what allows us to go out there and pretty much hit 100% win rate on any new funnel that we launch on cold traffic, because we have just so much freaking data, in the now that we know works, and we could apply it to any new offer in any new market, and we could typically crush it every single freaking time.
It's literally the WeScale creators' creative Bible of sorts, like literally, because when we go in and we take on a new partner and we're back at square one, like we were explaining in the beginning of this podcast, like, sure, we still need to capture data for that market, but now we have a head start because now we know across millions and millions of dollars in ad spend, like these are the things that resonate the most in direct response or in our style of ads that we run with our funnel types. In general, this is what hits, and that allows us, we still got to go and figure out what works and what doesn't and why, but the foundation that we've laid now that we can go and apply to any new partner in any new market that we work with allows us to just capture that winning data and losing data so much faster, just gives us a head start into everything. And that's something that we're going to continue, I'll keep harping on this point, continue to update over time as new platforms come out, buying behavior changes, intent changes, the world changes, people's behavior and buying patterns will change along with it. And especially when you're running advertising, you have to be able to react to that and understand it. And like you said earlier, meet the market where they're at. Because if you're not meeting the market where they're at, your ads aren't going to resonate, even if it is based on winning data from 12 months ago. It's just not going to hit home. And all the biggest and best brands in any space all deeply understand this, and they do the exact same thing. That's how they have so much success.
Yeah, data is the real moat. I mean, everybody has AI. Everybody has the same tools. Everybody kind of has the same quality of output. But when you have real data that you can train your AI models on, that's when you unlock real that's when you really supercharge your growth. That's when your team can move so much faster. That's when your creative win rate goes up. That's when your team saves time on everything. It's a game of probability, right? You're increasing your probability on getting better results. It's the real competitive advantage.
It's the real advantage. It's one of the only advantages that you have left. And for us and our partners that we work with, we're going to continue to hammer this home as AI models continue improving as well over time. The type of data that's going to be the most relevant to it will change. How it actually goes and ingests that information will change. Like I said, we're working on a way to be able to have AI in real time every day, pull this data automatically so we don't have to do these massive dumps. Like these are things that you have to stay on the cutting edge of, that we're going to continue to stay on the cutting edge of. And all of our partners and the offers that we work on are going to reap the benefits along with it.
Yep. Cool. Great episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this. As usual, if you want us to run your marketing, run your ads, invest our own capital behind it, WeScaleCreators.com, shoot us an application. We'll see if we're a good fit to work with you. And if you have anybody that you think would be a good fit to work with us, we pay up to $100,000 for referrals, 100KReferral.com. Appreciate you guys. See you on the next episode.